Welcome back to Daybreak Extra on Trust TV, where we're still examining the current ASUU strike that is going on right now. Lots of students are at home, and we just spoke to the national chairman of ASUU, and he's given us his own perspective of how the strike is going. But right now, let's see how the other half lives, because just like we talked about earlier, there are parties that are involved in this. We have the federal government, we have ASUU, and then we have the students. Which I believe, in my own personal opinion right now, they are the most important people when you talk about this kind of situation, because they are the ones who are most affected. They are the ones who are at home, have been at home since February, and they want to go to school. That is just the simple thing that they are saying. So right now we have a couple of students right here in the studio to give us their own perspective. We have Muhammad Ahmed Marafa. He's Secretary General, West African Youth Congress, and Jonat Aledi, who's a former National Financial Secretary, the National Association of Nigerian Students. Gentlemen, you're welcome to Daybreak Extra.
Thank you so much.
All right, so let me start from Jonah. We heard what the national chairman said of ASUU, that they are fighting for your future. Do you actually feel as if your future is being fought for?
Well, thank you so much for having us. In this issue, NANS is always 50% with ASUU, and 50% on our own. Why I said that is when you talk about what they are fighting for, we can see the outcome, which is TET fund, just as he said. If you go to public tertiary institutions, especially the universities, most of the buildings and everything is being done by TET fund. It's as a result of the struggle ASUU and NANS did that gave birth to that. But when it comes to the issue of an allowance, things that has to directly do with the lecturers now, I think they are sometimes being too rigid or too greedy, if I may use that word, on government. Sometimes when you talk about infrastructure, funding, yes, the education is being underfunded by the federal government. Just as he said, Nigeria is funding education with 1 digit, which is quite unfortunate. UNESCO gave a standard of 26% of funding education. You don't need any special intervention. If Nigeria today will revert to the recommendation of UNESCO to give education 26%, we don't need any intervention from TET fund, ETF, or any other person. Because if you look at the total allocation of budget for every fiscal year, 26% is good enough to fund everything that has to do with tertiary institutions. So what we should be fighting for now is the funding, not the increment of this or increment of that, because it's not sustainable. By the time you start requesting that, okay, comparing your income with the private institutions and what the public institutions are getting, when you retire from private institutions, there is no retirement benefit or pension. But the lecturers, the professors now, their retirement is 70 years. After 70 years, if God give you long life, another 20 or 30 years, federal government will still be paying you. So where the comparison is coming from? So what ASUU and the NANS should be doing is to mount pressure on the central government to fund the education sector enough that it can take care of the infrastructure aspect and also the monetary aspect when it comes to benefit to the lecturers. So this is where the issue is. This is where it has always been. And I think there was a missing link from the founding fathers, because when you look at 60s, 70s, and maybe early 80s, education was attractive.
Very.
When education is attractive, you don't need to tell somebody to go to school, because everything is being taken care of. For a primary school pupil that sees his contemporaries going to school, they eat their breakfast there and lunch, definitely he will not go and start. If you look at the streets now, most of the children begging, they are looking for what to eat. If you provide that meal for them, you give them the necessary equipment for them to go to school, they will not go out to the street, because most of them will beg you for food.
So that's quite an interesting take on it. So, Mohammed, let me ask you now. We did speak about incessant strikes that have been going on. And I even asked the national chairman that, okay, we've gone on strikes before, agreements have been signed before, and still we still go on strike. Is strike the right step to take? Do you actually believe, is it sending the right message?
Yeah, I think of such. And let me tell you this, the lecturers have no any solution than to go to strike. While the students have no any solution than to protest. Based on what is happening now, but like what my colleague said, at times, to me, I even look at it as, like now, if you will talk out there, the major issue is the 2009 agreement. And among the major issue that they were discussing is there is what they call UTAS, the system that they want the government to use in paying them. And let me tell you this, cut me anywhere, if the government today will adopt this system, the next thing that you will hear, they will start shouting about their payment. But the only solution that I know they have for now, yes, is a strike, and they don't have any solution. But to we as students, this strike that they are going is seriously affecting us. Yeah, I at times blame them, but I blame the government much more than them, because of why you can't be in government for about 6 or 7 years, be negotiating on 2009 agreement for 5 times without bringing a good solution. I, as Mohammed Ahmed Marava, if I will be in that position to negotiate with them, if I see my soldiers cannot come out with an adequate result, a good solution to this problem, I will invite them. Let's sit by myself. And what is affecting us again is politics. You know, so much of the times when we are discussing critical issues that has to do with this country, before you realize politics will just come and enter. What will it take now for this to end this strike? What will it take us to say that, see, what brought what resolved this issue in 2009? They brought someone outside from the government of the past government and brought him on the table to be the link, and made him to be the ministers of that time, to come and serve as the link. So the only solution that the lecturers are having is strike. So, and the only solution to me as a student, if I will advise this government, if there are 2 ministers that were being served as the link to discuss this issue, cannot resolve it for the 5 times, let us withdraw, let us drop them and bring new faces that we think they have did well in the past.
So on the issue of funding, I had earlier asked the ASUU chairman, you know, funding, government funding, is there any other means to these funds coming in? Maybe research programs to attract, because I mean that's what a few of the private universities they run on. Because at the end of the day, if we're being honest, from what I've seen, you know, looking at other countries and the rest, it's not easy to manage free education.
I think if you look at, we don't need to even go far. This TED fund is not federal government project. Yeah, it is a program that all the companies that we are having in Nigeria will just like drop some percentage of what they gain. In either their sales or their income. So already there is another way that is funding the school. And secondly,
alternative, you can't just have 2. There needs to be. Normally,
why should we even have, as a country like Nigeria, why should we have another alternative with all the resources that we are having?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you know how they say when you look for a solution in one place and it doesn't come out, you go to another place to look for it. And
we don't need to.
That's what I'm trying to say.
The issue there is that the basic funding that's supposed to be coming from the federal government is not coming.
Yes.
And the alternative, which is the TED fund, is already there. That is what is sustaining the schools. So let's go back to the basis. Let the federal government, it is called Federal University of so State University. It's owned by those governments. If they know they cannot fund those schools, why do they even start it in the first instance? And secondly, the facilities, whether we like it or not, the population is fast growing. A university that used to contain less than 5,000 now has more than 30,000 students. So a lecture theater that's supposed to be accommodating 50 students is now accommodating 250 or 500. At the end of the day, you see students going to school with mat in tertiary institutions or sitting on stones. Some are standing by the window. So, and that reduced the level of productivity in the students. And these are some of the things, as NANS then, when I was in government, we were challenging. When the ASUU started accounting things, the student is a student, we asked, when it comes to research and finding solutions, what is our lecturers doing? In the whole of the country, we have a lot of professors.
Yes, we do.
We have a lot of professors who we can't see physically their research work. In the school I attended, my undergraduate studies, even to get a sachet water that the university community can now survive on or can live on, it wasn't functioning very well. So we have to have private sachet water companies around the school community, owned by private individuals, that running very okay. But the one that was owned by the school has shut down. So these are some of the mismanagement we're talking about.
All right, well, talking about mismanagement and talking about negotiations and all that, do you have any idea whether or not NANS is actually part of the current negotiation going on between the federal government and ASUU? Do they have any representation?
They don't.
Yes,
And these are some of the issues. These are some of the issues.
Student unions when they go on this strike.
There was a time, I know it was very viral, the NANS president had a fracas with the minister. These are some of the issues. You cannot go and be negotiating on my behalf while I was not there. It's not possible. At the end of the day, that is why it's always lies that always cover another lie. Because we are talking about 2009 agreement. This is 2022. It's not being implemented. After this implementation, I bet you the ASUU will start renegotiating because it's already 2022. They will need a review of that agreement. So what we are saying is, if you want to talk about the students have leadership. Let there be a representation. We also have things that will tell the federal government and the ASUU that will be a solution, a permanent solution. But when the platform is not given, all you do is to sit at home. When they finish what they want to negotiate, they will tell you to come back to school.
Well, maybe they assume that they already know what the problems are.
You mentioned something on level of productivity.
Yes.
As a student being at home 6 months of strike, where is the will to go back to school after 6 months?
I am telling you, the moment school is resumed, a lot of schools will start exams directly. These are some of the... Yes!
Did they give you handouts to read? These are some of the things the students are fighting for. You cannot, as a lecturer, the student has been out of school for months, just resuming to give him a two weeks or 1 week review and tell him to go and write exams. When he fails, you started to talk rubbish. These are some of the things that the students are not comfortable with.
But the thing is, you have student unions, don't you?
Let me tell you, I forget about student union. I was once a vice president of student union. Let me tell you
this. Let us not forget about it.
I want to explain to you how it works.
I don't want to forget about it.
Because I want to explain to you how it works so that you won't waste your time on asking questions on this. Let me tell you this one thing about student union. If you're a student leader, you're just risking your life. Forget about what you will get, the opportunity, the links, the connection. You are just risking your life. Let's assume now this school, these lecturers are not going to class. You cannot confront them.
Yes.
If you confront them, you are risking your life in 2 ways. You will either not graduate, one, or either they will even find a way of sending you out of the school,
removing you from your post.
Yes.
But we're not talking about one person.
This. Come to this. Look at this. And secondly, if you try to come up with a protest, the next thing that you will end up seeing yourself in DSS office. So it's either you dance to their tune as a student leader inside your school. The only student leaders that are having like their immunity or independence is only the main national bodies. That's all.
All right. So you had your say. Let me have mine.
Okay.
The students. We're not talking about one person here. One person is not student union government. I can't come here and say I'm the student union government and I'm going to go and confront lecturers and get rusticated or get suspended or even expelled. It's a student body. That is why it is called a body. With every student in that school is involved in that. Are you saying that there's absolutely no way that students can be mobilized within a particular school? One school cannot be mobilized for them to be able to hold the school authority accountable? There's absolutely no way that can happen.
It's not the school management that is the main issue here. It's the federal government and the national body.
We're talking about going back to school and then starting exams.
Yes.
Can't we say we are not doing it?
Yeah, but he brought up an issue of protest.
He just gave you an.
I gave you
if the students say we're not going to exam hall, nobody shows up for the exam hall.
There are skeleton schools, universities that just resume, and ASUU are trying to give them sanction as the main body. Likewise, the students. When you have the student leaders now, there are always leaders leading a particular team.
Yes.
When you have the student leaders leading the whole, you cannot go and arrest the whole students, but they identify those student leaders.
So now, out of fear,
are you going to risk your future? Are you going to risk your future because of the school management?
But the thing is, you put yourself out there to say, okay, I want to do this.
Yes.
And those students elected you.
I've already answered you. I don't want to go deep in that, but
those students elected you to represent them.
Yeah.
It's just like me coming out right now.
We elected the state governments to fund education. Let's hold them responsible.
If I come out now,
things are going normally,
and say,
I don't think
I want to be president,
and
you guys rally around me and you elect me as president.
Let me cite an example of myself. When I was the vice president, I don't used to go on the same lane with my president because he is more closer to the dean's student affairs than the student, while I'm more closer to the student than the dean. So the only thing that I have is for me to forget about the student union government and concentrate on my education, because I see nothing is moving the way I wanted and the way I believe the student wanted. So this is what is happening. I think I answered you.
And you didn't create instead of
but Ibrahim, that's
looking for change.
One thing I think I understand from what he
it's two
said.
things. It's two things. I finished my school without having a spill. It's either for me to agree on and do that without concentrating on what will lead me to even leave the school entirely, than either concentrating on a fight that will make me to leave the school.
Mr. Ibrahim, the main issue there is we as citizens of this country, there are manifestos rolled out by several contestants, and the one with the majority is declared the president or the governor. So what we expect from them is to protect our life and property, is to fund education and give us security.
That's all.
That is what we are agitating for. Let there be funding. When everything is moving smoothly, the lecturers are receiving their pay. Let me tell you, some of these lecturers are frustrated. Because if you look at where they are staying, it's nothing to write home about. If they compare themselves with their students that are lecturing in private schools, they shed tears. So sometimes they bring down the frustration on the students.
That's not an excuse.
You understand?
That is not an excuse.
Let me talk of this.
I'm not doing that excuse. I'm telling you practically what is happening in the country. When somebody is earning well, he will give you.
He will give you well. I mentioned it earlier.
Understand? When the environment is conducive like this studio now, you can't tell a child to be productive. He will.
Yes.
Because there is air condition or free ventilation.
Yes,
when you have everything chalked up, somebody cannot even take notes. He's keeping book on his laps. How do you expect him to be productive? When the hostels are being chalked up. When I was in the university, undergraduate, it used to be 4 per room. It later turned to be 8 per room, and the money doubled. Now as I'm talking to you, it's more than 10 per room. People are lying down like sardine.
So it's just quite unfortunate, the state of education in Nigeria, and we do hope that all these agitations that we've been agitating for actually bring some benefits to us, and we hope that education will be where we want it to be. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Mr.
for coming in. Thank you very much for coming on the program. We wish we had more time so that we can dissect these issues and go even deeper. But we hope subsequently we can be able to do that, and maybe the next time that we meet, we'll be celebrating something different. Thank you very much for coming on the show.